The rain hammered against the metal roof of the parking garage, turning every step into an echo of dread. Harper Lane, 7 months pregnant and trembling, stood beneath the flickering light as Cole Maddox shoved a stack of papers into her shaking hands. His voice, once sweet and warm, was now carved with cruelty. "Sign it, Harper. I'm not ruining my future over some mistake you refuse to fix." Her breath caught. The baby kicked light but desperate, as if sensing the danger. She pressed a hand to her belly, whispering a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. "I'm not ending this pregnancy," she said softly. "This is our child, Cole." Cole scoffed, glancing around to be sure no one saw him with her. "It's your problem now. Don't ever come near me again. You hear me?" His words sliced deeper than the cold air. Lightning flashed, and for a second, Harper saw the man he truly was, small, frightened, and vicious. She stumbled backward as he stormed off toward his silver Mercedes. But before the doors slammed shut, another figure emerged from behind a concrete pillar. A tall man, raincoat dripping, eyes dark with something between anger and disbelief. Harper didn't know him, didn't even notice him, but he saw everything. Nathan Hale. He watched Cole drive away and then turned toward Harper, who was now on her knees, clutching her belly as another sharp pain tore through her. The siren of an approaching storm wailed above them, but Nathan didn't move forward. Something told him she needed space, yet something else told him this moment would haunt him if he walked away. And he was right, because tonight was the beginning of a story none of them could ever undo. And it would all explode years later, in the middle of a crowded mall. Harper didn't remember how she got from the parking garage to the bus station. One moment she was kneeling on cold concrete, the next she was standing under a flickering fluorescent light, clutching her backpack against her chest. Her fingertips felt numb, her breath shallow, her clothes soaked through with rain. The world had shrunk to the sound of her heartbeat and the weight of the child she refused to give up. The ticket clerk barely looked up when she whispered, "One way, anywhere south." Her voice cracked, but she slid the last of her cash crumpled bills she had saved for prenatal vitamins across the counter. The clerk tore a ticket and pushed it toward her without a word. It felt like confirmation. Her old life was gone. On the bus, Harper lowered herself into a seat near the back, cradling her belly with both hands. Each bump in the road sent sharp aches through her spine, a reminder that her pregnancy was already considered high risk. The doctor had warned her, stress could trigger early labor. She'd tried to stay calm, tried to believe Cole would eventually soften, but now she knew better. The man she once trusted would rather erase her existence than face responsibility. She swallowed hard as headlights streaked across the foggy windows. She wasn't running away because she was weak, she was running because it was the only way to protect her child. She thought about her mother, who used to tell her, "Courage isn't loud, Harper. Sometimes it's the quiet choice to keep going." Tonight, that felt painfully true. Hours passed before the bus rolled into Los Angeles. The city glowed like a restless giant, neon signs, distant sirens, palm trees swaying in the cold wind. Harper stepped onto the sidewalk with trembling legs. She had no home, no job, no plan. Only a rented room she'd found online and a handful of dollars she prayed would stretch further than reality allowed. The room was small, walls thin, mattress older than she was. But Harper exhaled for the first time that night. She lay on her side, rubbing her stomach in slow circles. "It's just you and me now," she whispered. "But we're going to make it. I promise." Yet the comfort didn't last. Just after midnight, a sudden, stabbing pain cut through her abdomen. Harper gasped, clutching the bedsheet as panic surged. The doctor's warning echoed in her mind. Something was happening far too soon. Harper braced herself against the peeling wall of the tiny room as another sharp wave of pain tore through her abdomen. It wasn't the normal tightness she'd felt for weeks. It was deeper, sharper, frighteningly rhythmic. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe, but the air felt thin, like the city was holding its breath with her. Every instinct she had screamed that something was wrong. She fumbled for her phone on the nightstand, the cracked screen lighting up her pale face. She debated calling 911, but the cost terrified her. She barely had enough money for food. How could she afford an ambulance, a hospital stay, or even the simplest test? Her hands shook as she searched for a rideshare instead. When the confirmation beeped, a tear slid down her cheek, not from pain, but from the crushing realization that survival always had a price. Outside, the night wind whipped across her skin as she made her way to the curb. Los Angeles sparkled with a beauty she couldn't touch, palm trees outlined by neon signs, cars slicing through the dark like silver arrows, strangers laughing on their way to midnight diners. She felt invisible among them, a shadow slipping between lives that seemed so effortlessly whole. The rideshare driver, an older man with kind eyes, looked at her through the rearview mirror. "Are you sure you're okay, miss? You look like you're hurting." Harper forced a smile, gripping the seatbelt as another contraction tightened her belly. "I'm fine. Just need to get to the ER, that's all." He didn't believe her, not for a second, but he nodded and drove faster. When they pulled up to the emergency entrance, Harper felt her legs give out. The driver rushed around to help her, shouting for a nurse. Within seconds, she was in a wheelchair, being pushed through sliding doors into the bright, sterile hallway of the hospital. Nurses asked questions she barely heard. Weeks pregnant? Pain scale? Any bleeding? But her vision blurred at the edges. A doctor leaned over her, his voice steady but urgent. "You're contracting too early. We need to monitor both you and the baby immediately." Harper's breath hitched. Too early, too fast, too dangerous. As they wheeled her toward a delivery room, her thoughts spiraled in panic. She had already lost so much: home, safety, love. She couldn't lose this baby. She squeezed her eyes shut, whispering a trembling prayer. And then the monitors beside her suddenly began to beep in a way that made every nurse in the room stop. The hospital room buzzed with controlled urgency. Machines hummed, nurses swarmed, and bright lights sharpened every shadow. Harper lay trembling on the narrow bed, gripping the thin blanket as the monitors beside her continued their frantic beeping. She felt sweat bead along her hairline, felt her pulse race in a rhythm she didn't recognize, fast, panicked, terrified. A nurse placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "You're contracting too early, honey. We're giving you medication to slow things down, but we need you to stay very still." Harper nodded weakly, though every instinct urged her to curl up and shield her belly. She closed her eyes, trying to focus on her breathing, trying not to drown in fear. She kept thinking of the one life she was fighting for, the tiny heartbeat inside her, the reason she left everything behind. Meanwhile, across the city, Nathan Hale stood in his penthouse office overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. A glass of untouched whiskey sat on the table beside him. He had tried to forget the scene from the parking garage, Harper crying, Cole shouting, the unmistakable cruelty of a man abandoning responsibility. He tried to file it away as none of his business, another painful moment he couldn't intervene in, but it kept replaying. The rain, her trembling voice, the way she protected her belly like it was the last precious thing she had. Nathan sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. Maybe it was because he, too, had grown up unwanted. Maybe it was because the echo of abandonment never truly left a person. Or maybe it was because something in Harper's eyes, fear mixed with stubborn courage, had struck him deeper than he cared to admit. He reached for his phone. He didn't expect what he saw next. A breaking local alert flashed across the screen. Unidentified pregnant woman rushed into emergency care at Cedars-Sinai. Witnesses report she collapsed outside rideshare. Nathan's stomach tightened. The blurry photo attached wasn't clear, but the silhouette was unmistakable: Harper's worn jacket, the backpack she had clutched that night. He didn't think twice. He grabbed his keys and headed for the elevator, heart pounding with a sense of urgency he didn't fully understand. He had no proof she needed him, no reason to get involved. But he went anyway. Down the street, at the hospital, Harper felt a sudden chill sweep through her body. The medication wasn't slowing anything down. Her contractions sharpened. The doctor looked up, face tightening. "Get the neonatal team. We may not be able to stop this." Harper's breath caught. She was about to deliver her baby far, far too early. Harper had never heard a room turn so silent. One moment, the medical team was moving around her with practiced efficiency, and the next, their motions slowed, their faces tightening as they studied the monitors. The doctor's voice cut through the air, calm but urgent. "Harper, your body is going into labor. We can try to delay it, but there's a chance your baby is coming tonight." Tonight? 7 months. Too soon. Her breath stuttered as fear slammed into her chest. She wasn't ready, not physically, not emotionally, not financially. She had left everything behind to protect this child, but now it felt like the universe was testing her again, pushing her to the edge. "Please," she whispered, her throat raw. "Just keep him safe." A nurse squeezed her hand. "We're doing everything we can." The lights above blurred as the contractions tightened again. Harper gritted her teeth, tears slipping sideways into her hair. Somewhere, deep inside, she clung to the same stubborn strength that made her run from Cole's cruelty. She refused to believe this child had fought so hard only to be taken away before ever seeing the world. As the team prepared equipment, the door suddenly slid open. Nathan Hale stood there, breathing hard, as if he had sprinted through half of Los Angeles. His hair was damp from the rain, his coat half-buttoned, his eyes sharp with concern. He took in the sight, Harper pale and trembling, the medical team moving fast, machines blinking red. He froze. He hadn't expected this. He had come thinking she might need support, a ride home, maybe even a warm meal. Instead, he walked into a moment that felt like life and death intertwined. A nurse stepped forward. "Sir, you can't be in." But Harper lifted her head, recognition flickering through her dazed vision. She didn't know his name, didn't know anything about him except the odd sense of safety she felt when she saw him. "Please," she whispered, "don't leave." That was all it took. Nathan moved to her bedside, lowering himself into the chair. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Her fingers curled weakly around his sleeve as another contraction hit. The monitors spiked. The doctor grimaced. "Prepare for neonatal resuscitation. If this baby comes out struggling, we need to act fast." Nathan's chest tightened at the words. He didn't understand why he cared so much, but he did. Harper's voice cracked as she whispered, "Please, save him." Then the alarm on the fetal monitor began screaming. And the doctor said the words every mother fears most. "We're losing his heartbeat." The sound of the monitor flatlining sliced through the room like a blade. Harper gasped, her entire body jolting as though the sound alone could shatter her. "No, no, please." Her voice broke into pieces. The doctor leaned over her, calm but moving with fierce urgency. "We need to deliver now. Emergency C-section. We're losing fetal stability." Harper felt the world tilt. She had always known motherhood would test her, but she never imagined the trial would come this soon, this violently. Her vision blurred as nurses rushed to prepare her, attaching IV lines, adjusting oxygen, pushing her bed toward the operating room. Her fingertips scraped against the rails as if she could anchor herself to life through sheer will. Nathan followed beside her, every muscle in his body taut. He felt useless, watching her suffer, watching her fight alone. Something in the air reminded him of his own mother, the way she had clung to him in a dim hospital room years ago before a man walked out and never returned. He swallowed hard. Not again, he thought. Not this child. Not this mother. "Sir," a nurse said firmly, "you can't come any farther." Harper looked up at him then, eyes full of fear, but also trust, raw, fragile trust she shouldn't have been able to give anyone after what she'd endured. "Stay," she whispered. "Please, be here when I wake up." Nathan nodded once. "I'll be right here, I promise." The doors swung shut, leaving him in the brightly lit hallway, heart pounding hard enough to shake him. He paced. Saturday stood again. Every second dragged like hours. He hated waiting. Hated not knowing. Hated that she was in there fighting alone while he could do nothing but breathe and hope. Finally, a neonatal nurse rushed past carrying a tiny incubator. Nathan caught only a glimpse. A fragile, impossibly small baby, chest rising in shallow, uneven breaths. Tubes, wires, a mask covering most of his face. Nathan froze as the incubator vanished around a corner. The doctor stepped out moments later, wiping his forehead. "The baby is alive," he said. "But he's critical. He's very premature." Nathan exhaled shakily, but the doctor wasn't finished. "And Harper?" Nathan asked. His voice cracked even though he tried to control it. The doctor hesitated. "She lost a lot of blood. We're working to stabilize her." Nathan felt cold creep into his bones. "How bad?" he whispered. The doctor's silence said more than words could. "She may not wake up tonight," he finally said, "if at all." Nathan's breath stopped, and for the first time in years, he felt truly afraid, because losing her suddenly felt like losing something he wasn't ready to admit he needed. Harper floated in a darkness so soft it felt almost merciful. No pain, no fear, just silence, like the world had finally stopped demanding anything from her. But then, through the quiet, came a tiny sound, a heartbeat, not hers, delicate, inconsistent, fighting with everything it had. She tried to reach for it, but her body felt anchored, too heavy to move. Somewhere far away, she heard a voice. Steady. Low, familiar. Harper, you're safe. You're not alone. Nathan. His voice pulled her upward like a thread of light, urging her to keep fighting. She forced her eyes open, just a sliver. The room was dim, a single lamp glowing beside her. Machines surrounded her bed, each one humming, beeping, breathing for her when she could not. Her throat ached. Her limbs felt foreign, but she was alive. Nathan leaned forward the moment he saw her lashes flutter. His voice cracked with relief. You're awake? Thank God. Harper tried to swallow, but her lips were too dry. He quickly lifted a cup, guiding a straw gently to her mouth. His hands were steady, but his eyes, they held a storm of emotions he wasn't trying to hide. What happened? She whispered. Nathan pulled the chair closer. He didn't sugarcoat it. You hemorrhaged. They performed an emergency C-section. You lost consciousness for hours. Her breath hitched, panic flooding back in. My baby, my baby. He's alive, Nathan said quickly. He's tiny, Harper, but he's fighting. Hard. Tears spilled instantly, rolling in warm trails down her cheeks. The thought of her son battling for each breath hit her harder than any pain she remembered from labor. She covered her face with trembling hands. I wasn't ready. I didn't even get to hold him. Nathan's expression softened. You will. They're keeping him in the NICU for now. They're doing everything possible. Harper turned her head, staring at the window fogged by the night air. Somewhere in that same building, her son was lying beneath harsh lights, surrounded by tubes and machines because she hadn't been able to carry him long enough. Guilt gnawed at her. Nathan leaned forward, voice quiet but firm. Harper, none of this is your fault. You saved him by coming here when you did. She looked at him then, truly looked at the worry etched in his face, at the exhaustion in his eyes. He hadn't left her side, not once. Why are you doing this for me? She whispered. Nathan exhaled, struggling for a moment. Then he answered honestly, because no one fought for my mother, and I refuse to let history repeat itself. Before Harper could speak, a nurse rushed into the room, face pale. Miss Lane, your baby's condition just changed. You need to come now. The wheelchair rattled slightly as the nurse pushed Harper down the hallway, fluorescent lights streaking above in long white lines. Nathan walked beside her, his steps sharp with worry. Harper clutched the thin blanket over her lap, trying to steady her breathing. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. She wasn't ready for bad news, not after everything they'd already survived. The NICU doors slid open with a soft hiss. The room was dim, warm, eerily quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of machines. Tiny incubators lined the wall, each one holding a life suspended between fragility and hope. Harper's chest tightened. Somewhere among them was her son, fighting alone. The nurse guided her toward the far corner. He started having oxygen drops, she explained gently. We're adjusting his support, but he's responding slowly. Harper's fingers dug into the armrest. Let me see him. They reached a small incubator surrounded by tubes and monitors, and there he was, her baby, so impossibly small, his skin almost translucent, chest rising and falling with the help of a machine. Harper's breath caught at the sight. She had imagined holding him, singing to him, watching him sleep against her chest. Not this. A soft, broken sound escaped her throat. Oh, sweetheart, Mommy's here. Nathan stepped back, giving her space. But his eyes didn't leave the child. He felt something stir in him, something protective and fierce. Maybe because he saw a version of himself in the tiny boy hooked to wires. Maybe because he saw the same loneliness he had known too well. A neonatal doctor approached. He's stabilizing, she said, but he is extremely premature. The next few days are critical. Harper swallowed hard. Can I touch him? You can, the doctor said softly, 2 fingers only, gently. Harper lifted a trembling hand into the incubator window and touched the back of her son's tiny hand. His fingers curled instinctively around hers, weak but deliberate. That single movement shattered her. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, You're strong, stronger than me. Don't give up. Nathan turned away for a moment, overwhelmed. He had seen power in boardrooms, in negotiations, in billion-dollar deals, but nothing compared to the quiet, unyielding strength of a mother begging her child to live. The doctor checked the monitor again and frowned slightly. His oxygen is still inconsistent. We may need to consider a different intervention. What kind of intervention? Harper's voice trembled. We'll discuss it soon, the doctor said. We just need to observe him a bit longer. Then suddenly, the monitor beeped sharply. The baby's oxygen level dipped again. A nurse rushed forward. Harper froze. Nathan stepped closer, jaw tight, and the doctor whispered the last words Harper ever wanted to hear. He's crashing again. The room snapped into motion the moment the monitor's alarm pierced the air. Nurses surged toward the incubator, adjusting tubes, increasing oxygen flow, calling out numbers in quick, clipped tones. Harper's body stiffened, every muscle trembling as she watched her son's tiny chest flutter unevenly. It looked like a candle flame fighting a violent wind. Please, please help him, she whispered, her voice nearly breaking. The doctor leaned over the incubator. He's having another severe desaturation. We need to escalate intervention. Harper felt the blood drain from her face. What does that mean? It means we may need to intubate him, the doctor replied. He's too weak to maintain his oxygen on his own. Harper's hands shook uncontrollably. Her fingernails dug into the arms of the wheelchair. She had imagined the first days of motherhood as sleepless nights, warm blankets, soft lullabies. Instead, she was watching strangers fight for her child's life, while she could do nothing but breathe and pray. Nathan stood behind her, jaw locked, fists curled at his sides. If money could fix this, he would have paid the world. If influence could save the baby, he would have called every hospital board in California. But this helplessness was a battlefield he didn't know how to fight on. The doctor addressed a nurse. Prep for intubation. Harper gasped. Wait, can I talk to him first, please? The doctor hesitated, then nodded. A nurse lowered the incubator wall, and Harper leaned forward, resting trembling fingers near her son's tiny hand again. Baby, Mommy's here. You don't have to be scared, okay? You're so strong, stronger than anyone knows. Keep fighting. For me. For a moment, just a heartbeat, his tiny fingers twitched. Harper's breath caught. Nathan knelt beside her, his voice low and steady. He hears you. Don't stop talking. She nodded, tears spilling. I won't ever stop. The team moved quickly, preparing equipment, adjusting lights, positioning the baby. Harper squeezed her eyes shut, unable to watch, but unable to look away. Her entire world was inside that incubator, fragile, struggling, precious. A nurse spoke softly. We're ready. The doctor reached into the incubator, and then, abruptly, the monitor let out a different sound. Not a flatline, not a drop, a steady, rising tone. The baby's oxygen level climbed slowly, shakily, but unmistakably upward. The doctor blinked in surprise. Hold on, he's stabilizing himself. Harper's eyes flew open. What? How? No one knew. It didn't make medical sense. But Harper knew. Her son had heard her. Nathan released a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. And then a nurse rushed over with a clipboard, her expression tight. Miss Lane, we need to talk. There's someone here asking about you. Harper looked up, confused and afraid, because she knew only one person who would dare show up tonight, Cole. Harper couldn't breathe for a moment. The nurse's words echoed in her mind like a distant alarm. There's someone here asking about you. Only one name rose like ice in her veins. Cole. Nathan immediately noticed the shift in her expression. Her shoulders tensed, her breath shortened, her eyes darted toward the NICU doors as if expecting him to burst in. Nathan stepped closer, lowering his voice. Who is it? Harper, talk to me. But before she could answer, the nurse returned, pale and uneasy. He's refusing to leave the waiting area. He said he deserves answers. Do you want security to remove him? Harper's throat tightened. For months, she had imagined what would happen if she ever saw Cole again. Anger, fear, maybe even regret. But right now, with her son fighting for every breath, she didn't have room for any of that. All she felt was exhaustion. No, she whispered. I'll talk to him. But not alone. Nathan didn't hesitate. You won't be. They followed the nurse down the hallway, Harper gripping the wheelchair handles as if bracing for impact. When they reached the waiting room, Cole stood near the vending machines, tapping his foot impatiently. He looked almost offended by the fluorescent lights, as though misery wasn't supposed to touch him. The moment he saw Harper, his eyes widened, not with concern, but with indignation. So it's true, he snapped. You kept the pregnancy. You actually went through with it. Nathan's jaw clenched. Watch your tone. Cole ignored him. His gaze swept over Harper, her hospital gown, her drained face, her trembling hands. You disappeared. Lied to me. Made me look like some heartless monster. Harper let out a shaky breath. You didn't need my help with that. His face twisted. Do you have any idea what people think now? What they're saying? You ruined everything for me. Nathan stepped forward, voice low and controlled. She owes you nothing. Cole finally noticed him, really noticed him. Recognition flickered. Wait, aren't you Nathan Hale, the tech guy? Why are you here? Because Harper is not alone, Nathan said evenly. The words hit Cole like a slap. He scoffed. So what, you're her? What? Savior? Bank account? Replacement? Harper closed her eyes briefly. She didn't have the strength for his venom. Cole, please. My baby is fighting for his life. I don't have energy for your accusations. Cole crossed his arms. Is he even mine? The question detonated in the room. Nathan stepped in front of Harper, voice like steel. Back off. But Cole only smirked until a hospital staff member rushed in, breathless. Miss Lane, we need you back in the NICU. Now, it's urgent. Harper's heart stopped. Because this time, no one said her baby was stabilizing. Harper's breath came in shallow bursts as the nurse pushed her wheelchair down the hallway at urgent speed. Nathan walked beside her, keeping pace, every muscle in his body pulled tight like a wire ready to snap. Cole followed several steps behind, muttering complaints as though the world had inconvenienced him personally. Harper blocked him out. All she could think was, please let my baby still be fighting. The NICU doors opened, and the soft beeping of machines flooded her senses. Nurses surrounded her son's incubator, adjusting settings, switching equipment. The doctor turned toward Harper with a serious expression, the kind that made hope shrink to a fragile whisper. He had another oxygen crash, the doctor said, but this time his heart rate dropped with it. Harper felt her stomach twist painfully. Is he still? He's alive, the doctor said quickly, but he's exhausted. We may need to move to more aggressive respiratory support. Nathan rested a steady hand on Harper's shoulder, grounding her. She leaned into the touch without thinking, too overwhelmed to question why his presence soothed her more than any medical assurance. Cole stepped forward, waving a dismissive hand. Look, just tell us what this is going to cost. We don't have time for drama. Every nurse in the room paused. Harper stared at him in disbelief. Cole, this is our son. He's fighting for his life. And you care about the bill? He shrugged. Well, someone has to pay for all this. Unless your new whatever he is plans to cover it? He jerked his chin toward Nathan. Nathan didn't even flinch. If Harper needs anything, I'll take care of it. Cole's jaw tightened. Yeah? And who asked you? You don't even know her. Nathan met his glare with a calm steeliness. I know enough. But before Cole could retort, the doctor interrupted. Please. The baby doesn't need raised voices. He needs stability. Harper's eyes went back to her son. His tiny chest rose and fell so delicately it almost broke her. She reached into the incubator, placing her fingertip against his palm. Hey, sweetheart, Mommy's right here. You're doing so well. Don't stop now. We're all here with you. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his fingers curled around hers again, weak, trembling, but undeniably alive. Harper gasped softly. Nathan exhaled with relief. The doctor nodded. That's a good sign. He knows you're here. But before Harper could savor the moment, a second nurse approached with a clipboard and an uneasy expression. Miss Lane, she said gently, there's something else we need to discuss. We received a request from someone claiming paternal rights. Harper's blood ran cold. Cole smirked. Nathan's expression darkened. The nurse hesitated before finishing the sentence. He's asking for a court order to test the baby as soon as he stabilizes. Harper felt the world tilt again. A court order? For a baby barely clinging to life? Her pulse hammered in her ears as she stared at Cole, who stood smirking like he had just scored some twisted victory. Nathan moved instinctively closer to her, as if shielding her from the venom dripping off Cole's presence. You can't be serious, Harper whispered. He's in critical condition. How could you even think? Cole cut her off with a shrug. I have rights, Harper. Or did you forget that? His tone dripped entitlement. If that kid is mine, I deserve to know. Nathan's voice came out low and razor sharp. This isn't about the child. This is about your ego. Cole scoffed. And what's it to you? You're just what? The guy she cried to? The replacement? Nathan didn't flinch. If protecting her makes me a replacement, then yes, gladly. Harper could barely process their exchange. Her focus stayed locked on the incubator. Her son's tiny form, rising and falling, wires scattered across his fragile body. She felt her heart squeeze painfully. Please, she said softly, turning to Cole. Not now. He's fighting for his life. This can wait. But Cole shook his head, jaw clenched. You don't get to control this anymore. You hid a pregnancy from me, ran away, made me look like a monster. Nathan's voice hardened. You are a monster. The tension in the room sharpened, nurses exchanging uneasy glances. The doctor stepped forward, attempting to de-escalate. Mr. Maddox, no testing will be done until the baby stabilizes, and parental disputes are not handled inside a NICU. Cole rolled his eyes. Typical. Everyone's against me. Harper swallowed hard, something inside her finally snapping loose. You forced me to end the pregnancy, she said, voice shaking but steady. You threatened me, humiliated me. I ran because it was the only way to save him. Cole laughed humorlessly. You can't prove that. Harper looked up with a strength she wasn't sure she owned until that moment. Actually, I can. She reached into her hospital bag with trembling hands. Nathan watched, realizing she had been carrying something more than just fear and hope. She pulled out a small folder, wrinkled, water-damaged, but intact. These, she whispered, are the medical documents from the night I refused the procedure. They documented everything you said, everything you tried to force. Cole's smirk faltered for the first time. Nathan's eyes widened slightly. She kept them. The doctor took the papers, scanning them quickly. Her expression hardened into something cold and professional. Mr. Maddox, she said, I think you should step outside. But before he could reply, the NICU alarm blared again, louder than before. Harper's head whipped toward the incubator. Her baby's heart rate was plummeting fast. Chaos erupted again. Nurses rushed to the incubator, voices overlapping as alarms shrieked through the NICU. Harper's body went rigid, her hands gripping the wheelchair armrests until her knuckles turned white. Nathan stepped closer, instinctively positioning himself between her and the collapsing world in front of them. Cole stayed frozen near the doorway, looking more annoyed than afraid, like this was another inconvenience in his already difficult night. The doctor bent over the incubator, adjusting oxygen levels, her voice firm. He's dropping fast. Prepare for emergency ventilation. Harper felt her lungs sitze. No, he was doing better. He held my hand. How can he? Nathan knelt beside her, steadying her trembling hands. Look at me, Harper. He's still here. They're doing everything they can. Don't give up on him. He hasn't given up on you. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't bother wiping it. Another nurse called out numbers too fast, too low, too frightening. Harper forced her body forward, reaching toward the incubator even though she knew she couldn't touch him yet. Sweetheart, Mommy's here. Please fight. Please. One of the nurses looked back at her and softened slightly. Talk to him, Miss Lane. Preemies respond to voices, especially their mothers. Harper leaned closer, her voice cracking. You're strong. I know you are. You survived everything with me. Don't stop now. I'm not letting go. I'm right here. Something shifted in the room. The doctor paused, staring at the monitor. A second later, the baby's heart rate flickered upward, not stable, not safe, but climbing. Slowly, unevenly, miraculously, the doctor blinked. He's responding again. Another nurse whispered, astonished. It's like he hears her. Harper let out a sob of relief. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment, overwhelmed by the resilience of a child who weighed barely 2 pounds. But the doctor wasn't done. She approached Harper gently. Miss Lane, I need to be honest with you. He's fighting with everything he has. But he's still extremely fragile. The next 24 hours will determine everything. Harper nodded, wiping tears from her jaw. Then I'll stay every second. Cole finally stepped forward, gesturing dismissively. Can we move on to my part in this? I want testing done as soon as he's stable. Nathan turned to him slowly. Your part? Harper just fought to keep her child alive. Your timing is disgusting. Cole's eyes hardened. I'm not going away. Before Harper could respond, a security officer appeared at the NICU entrance. "Miss Lane? We were told to inform you immediately there's been a development regarding Mr. Maddox." Harper frowned. "What kind of development?" The officer hesitated, then spoke. "Mr. Maddox is under investigation for financial misconduct, and there's an arrest warrant being drafted tonight." The color drained from Cole's face. For the first time since stepping into the hospital, his arrogance cracked. "An arrest warrant?" he echoed, voice thinning with disbelief. "For what? I didn't do anything." The security officer glanced at his notes. "Multiple counts of financial misconduct, embezzlement, loan falsification. There's an active inquiry involving your branch and your personal accounts." Nathan folded his arms, voice calm but edged with steel. "You manipulated numbers to get ahead. You pushed people under you to take the fall. And now it's catching up." Cole swung toward Harper, wild-eyed. "This is your fault. You're ruining my life." Harper stared at him, exhaustion and heartbreak layering her voice. "Cole, you ruined your life long before tonight. I just refuse to cover for you." He scoffed, pacing like a man trapped in a shrinking room. "You think you're so righteous, playing the victim? You left, Harper. You left me to take all the blame." Nathan stepped forward. "She left because you were dangerous." Cole jabbed a finger toward Nathan. "And you? What are you doing here? Acting like you're some hero?" He spat the word like venom. "Let me guess, you saw a charity case and wanted to clean your conscience?" Nathan didn't react. His voice stayed steady. "I'm here because she deserves someone in her corner, something you never understood." Cole let out a broken laugh. "Unbelievable. I lose everything, and she gets, what? A billionaire knight in shining armor?" Harper's eyes glistened, not with sadness, but clarity. "I didn't choose suffering, Cole. I didn't choose debt or danger or raising a child alone, but I chose to save his life. And that's the only choice I'll never regret." The room fell quiet. Harper's son let out a faint cry, small, strained, but real, from inside the incubator. Harper turned instantly, instinct overriding everything else. Her baby was still fighting, still holding on. Cole watched the scene, something like fear flickering behind his anger. For a moment, he looked small, powerless, lost, but the moment vanished as he straightened, false confidence snapping back into place. "This isn't over," he growled. "I'll fight for custody, for my reputation, for everything you stole from me." Nathan moved closer, voice low and deadly calm. "You might want to focus on staying out of prison first." Before Cole could respond, 2 uniformed officers appeared at the doorway. "Cole Maddox?" one asked. Cole stiffened. "What now?" "You need to come with us, to answer some questions." Harper exhaled shakily, watching the man who once controlled her fate finally lose control of his own. But the peace didn't last. A nurse rushed toward them, face pale. "Miss Lane, your baby. Something's happening again." The moment the nurse spoke, Harper felt her entire chest cave in. She didn't wait for her wheelchair to be turned. She pushed the wheels herself, her weakened arms trembling as she moved toward the incubator. Nathan immediately grabbed the handles, guiding her with controlled urgency. Behind them, Cole was being questioned by officers, his protests fading into background noise. Right now, nothing mattered except one thing: her son. When the team parted to let her through, Harper saw the problem instantly. Her baby's breathing had become erratic again, quick, shallow gasps that barely lifted his tiny chest. The monitor showed fluctuating oxygen levels, each drop tightening a knot deep in her stomach. "What's happening?" Harper managed, voice paper thin. The doctor didn't sugarcoat it. "He's tired. His lungs are underdeveloped, and he's been fighting harder than we expected." Harper's throat thickened. "What do we do?" "We try one last non-invasive intervention before moving to full mechanical ventilation," the doctor said. "But we need to prepare for the possibility that it may not be enough." Nathan rested a steady hand on her shoulder. She leaned into the touch, drawing strength she didn't have on her own. A respiratory therapist stepped forward. "We're going to increase humidity and airflow. Sometimes the gentler approach calms them, but he needs you close." "Talk to him again, Miss Lane." Harper nodded, tears pooling but not falling. She placed her fingers inside the incubator, barely brushing his fragile hand. "Baby," she whispered, voice breaking. "I know you're tired. I know it hurts, but you're not alone. I'm here. I'll always be here." The therapist adjusted the machine. A soft hum filled the space, gentler than the alarms, almost like a lullaby. Nathan stepped closer, quietly lowering himself until he was eye level with the incubator. "You've got this, little man," he said softly. "Your mom's the strongest person I've ever met. You must have gotten some of that strength." Harper glanced at him, something unspoken passing between them. Gratitude, fear, hope. A fragile thread weaving the three of them together in a way none of them could have predicted. The baby twitched just a small movement, but noticeable. His oxygen level flickered upward by 2 points. The doctor watched carefully. Come on, sweetheart." Another point, then another. Harper gasped. "He's responding." Nathan exhaled, a shaky breath of relief. But just as hope began to take shape, the therapist's expression shifted. "Doctor, look." A new number appeared on the screen. Heart rate, dangerously high. The doctor's eyes widened. "He's overcompensating. This could trigger cardiac distress." Harper froze. Nathan's hand tightened around hers. The doctor leaned over the incubator, voice urgent now. "Everyone stand by, we may be losing cardiac stability." The NICU filled with a tense, electric silence as the baby's heart rate spiked higher. Nurses exchanged urgent glances, and the doctor leaned closer to the incubator, her voice steady but grave. "He's going into tachycardia. We need to calm his system before his heart gives out." Harper felt every word like a punch. No, please, he was getting better. "He's overexerting himself," the doctor said. "He's been fighting too long without rest." Nathan positioned himself beside her wheelchair, his presence grounding her in a storm that threatened to pull her under. He had faced mergers worth billions, boardrooms full of sharks, deals that could collapse entire markets, but nothing had ever terrified him like the sight of this tiny life unraveling. A respiratory therapist adjusted a dial. "We can try a stabilizing sedative, just enough to help him breathe without panic." "Do it," Harper whispered, though the words scraped her throat like glass. The therapist administered the medication through a tube no wider than a string. The doctor watched the monitor intensely. The heart rate remained dangerously high, too high. The seconds felt like hours. "Come on, sweetheart," Harper whispered, voice trembling. "Slow down, Mommy's right here. You don't have to fight so hard." Nathan bent closer, his voice low. "Hey, little warrior, take it easy. We're not going anywhere." Then slowly, painfully, slowly, the heart rate dipped by 2 points. The doctor released a small breath. "Good, keep going." Another 3 points. Then one more. Harper's shoulders sagged with fragile relief. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment, silently grateful. But the doctor didn't relax. "He's still unstable. We need to keep monitoring closely. And Miss Lane?" She hesitated. "You need rest as well. You're still recovering from surgery and blood loss." Harper shook her head. "I'm not leaving him." The doctor softened. "I didn't think you would." After a few minutes, the NICU cleared out slightly, leaving only essential staff. Harper remained by the incubator, hand resting near her son's. Nathan stood beside her, his voice barely above a whisper. "You saved him again," he said. Harper shook her head. "He saved himself. He's stronger than anyone." Nathan looked at her then, not just at her exhaustion, or her fear, or her determination, but at the woman who had fought alone for so long. Something shifted inside him. Something quiet but undeniable. "I'm not letting you face any of this alone anymore," he said softly. She blinked, startled. "Nathan, I mean it," he continued. "Whatever your son needs, whatever you need, I'll make sure you have it." Before she could speak, the NICU doors slammed open. A second doctor rushed in, breathless. "Miss Lane, we just received new lab results. There's a complication we didn't catch before." Harper's pulse stopped. "Your son may need emergency surgery before sunrise." Harper's breath caught in her chest. "Emergency surgery? What kind of complication?" The second doctor approached gently, holding a chart filled with numbers Harper couldn't begin to understand. "Your son's scans show signs of NEC necrotizing enterocolitis. It's a severe intestinal condition, common in preemies of his size. Part of his bowel may be damaged." Harper felt her whole world tilt. "Damaged? What does that mean for him?" "It means," the doctor continued, "if we don't operate quickly, the infection could spread. The surgery is risky, but not doing it is even more dangerous." Nathan stepped closer, voice steady. "What are his chances?" The doctor's expression softened with empathy. "With surgery, 50%. Without it, much lower. Harper covered her mouth to hold back a sob. 50%. A coin toss. Her baby's life reduced to odds. She looked at the incubator, at that tiny chest, rising and falling with help from machines, and wondered how much more he could take. Nathan crouched down beside her wheelchair. His voice was low, unwavering. "Harper, listen to me. This little boy has fought harder than most grown men ever will. He survived every setback thrown at him. If anyone can make odds look foolish, it's him." She swallowed hard, tears burning her eyes. I don't want his whole life to be pain." Nathan shook his head softly. "Pain isn't his life. Fighting is. And he learned that from you." The doctor continued, "We need your consent as soon as possible." Harper wiped her face, though the tears kept coming. She was exhausted, terrified, still healing from her own surgery. But motherhood doesn't wait for strength, it demands it. She nodded. "Do whatever it takes. Save him." "We'll prep the OR immediately," the doctor said before rushing off. As the NICU began shifting into surgical protocol, the room grew heavier, quieter, almost reverent. Harper leaned forward, whispering through the incubator window. "Sweetheart, Mommy's right here. You're not doing this alone. Not ever." Nathan rested a steady hand on her back. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The weight of his presence was its own promise. Behind them, Cole, still detained by officers, watched the scene with something Harper hadn't seen on him before. Fear. Real fear. For a moment he seemed smaller, but the moment was brief. His jaw tightened again. "I'll be part of that decision. I'm the father." Harper didn't turn around. "No, Cole. Fathers show up before the fight, not after." The officers exchanged looks. The surgical team returned. "It's time." Nathan squeezed Harper's hand. She inhaled shakily. But just as they prepared to move the incubator, a third doctor hurried in, holding a tablet with the newest scans. His expression stopped everyone. "Miss Lane, we need to talk. The infection has spread faster than expected. The surgery just became far more complicated." Harper felt the room spin. "We may have to remove more than we originally thought." Harper felt as though the floor had vanished beneath her. "Remove more?" she whispered, gripping the armrests to steady herself. "How much more?" The third doctor kept his tone gentle, but the news was sharp as glass. "The infected section of bowel is larger than we anticipated. If we don't remove it, the infection could spread to his bloodstream. If we do, he may need long-term support as he grows." Harper's heart cracked. "Will he survive the surgery?" "That's what we're fighting for," the doctor said softly. For several seconds, Harper couldn't speak. Everything she had run from, everything she had endured, everything she loved, it all came down to this impossible, terrifying choice. Her son's entire future balanced on a blade's edge. Nathan moved to her side, lowering himself so he could meet her eyes. "Harper," he said quietly, "this is the hardest decision you'll ever make. But look at what he's survived already. Look at how he fights. He's not giving up." She blinked through tears. What if I make the wrong decision and he never forgives me?" Nathan shook his head, voice steady and warm. "He won't need to forgive you. You're choosing the chance for him to live." The words hit her deeply. Nathan wasn't pushing. He wasn't demanding. He was holding her together with nothing more than presence and truth. Cole, still standing near the officers, scoffed. "Just do the surgery. I don't know why we're wasting time with emotional speeches." Harper didn't even look at him. She finally understood the difference between a father and a man who simply contributed biology. And she knew, with painful clarity, that her son deserved better than cold indifference. She turned to the doctor. "Do the surgery, all of it. Save him." The doctor nodded firmly. "We'll do everything we can." The team swiftly surrounded the incubator, preparing it for transport. Harper reached through the small opening one last time, her fingertip brushing his tiny hand. "Mommy loves you," she whispered. "Come back to me." As the surgical team wheeled him toward the OR, Harper's strength collapsed. Nathan caught her before she could fold into herself. She wasn't sobbing, she was too far past tears. She was simply empty, terrified, and holding on by threads. Nathan guided her to a nearby chair. "Harper, you did the right thing." She shook her head. "I just sent my baby into a surgery with 50% odds." Nathan didn't sugarcoat it. "Yes, you did, but 50% is hope, and hope is worth fighting for." Just then, one of the OR nurses approached, face tense. "Miss Lane, Mr. Hale, we need to discuss something urgently." Harper stiffened. "Something about the surgery?" The nurse hesitated, then shook her head. "No, this is about Mr. Maddox and what he just told the surgical team." Harper's heart clenched the moment the nurse spoke. This is about Mr. Maddox and what he just told the surgical team. Nathan straightened, instincts sharp. "What did he say?" The nurse glanced toward the hallway where Cole was being questioned by officers. "He told the team he doesn't consent to the surgery unless he approves every step." Harper froze. What? "He claims paternal authority," the nurse continued. "He said he wants to protect himself legally if the baby doesn't survive." The words sliced through Harper like ice. For a moment, she couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. Her son was in a fight for his life, and cold, narcissistic Cole was thinking about liability. Nathan's eyes darkened. He can't veto anything. Harper is the primary guardian. But the nurse shook her head. Normally, yes, but because he filed an emergency paternal claim, the hospital has to document his objections. It doesn't stop the surgery, but it complicates paperwork. Harper's hands trembled violently. "My baby could die while we're filling out forms." Nathan knelt beside her, his voice low and fierce. "This ends now." He rose and strode toward Cole, every step controlled but blazing with purpose. The officers moved aside as Nathan approached. Cole lifted his chin, attempting arrogance, but his eyes flickered with fear when he saw Nathan's expression. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Nathan demanded. Cole shrugged. "Protecting my rights. If that baby is mine, I'm not taking the fall for—" "Fall?" Nathan cut in. "He's not a scandal, he's a life. A life your actions nearly destroyed before he was even born." Cole scoffed. "Oh please, you're acting like you're the father." Nathan didn't flinch. "I'm acting like a man with a conscience." Cole's mouth twisted. "Well, I'm not signing anything until—" "You won't need to," a new voice interrupted. The third doctor approached with a clipboard. "Mr. Maddox, after reviewing Miss Lane's medical documents and your recorded statements, the hospital's legal team has confirmed that she has sole medical decision authority. Your objection is noted, but you have no power to delay or change the procedure." Cole's face drained of color. "You can't do that." "We just did," the doctor replied. Harper let out a shaky breath, tears falling silently. Nathan returned to her side, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "He won't interfere again." She nodded, but her fear didn't ease. "Nathan, what if the surgery is too much for him?" Nathan's voice softened. "Then he'll face it the same way he's faced everything, with more strength than anyone expects." Before Harper could answer, the OR doors swung open. The lead surgeon stepped into the hallway, still in scrubs, face unreadable. "Miss Lane, we've begun the procedure." She clutched Nathan's hand. "But there's something we discovered during the first incision. You need to hear it immediately." The surgeon's eyes held a gravity that made Harper's breath hitch. "Miss Lane," he said, "when we made the first incision, we found something unexpected. Your son's bowel wasn't as damaged as the scans suggested. The inflammation was severe, but reversible. We removed only a small portion. He handled the procedure better than any of us predicted." Harper's hands flew to her mouth. He made it?" A slow smile touched the surgeon's face. "He made it. He's a fighter. And he's stable." Stable. The word washed over her like sunlight after months of cold. Her chest shook with silent sobs, relief pouring through every part of her aching body. Nathan leaned close, his voice soft and warm. "I told you, he's stronger than anyone knows." The surgeon continued. "He'll recover in the NICU for a while. But Miss Lane, your son has a real chance now." A real chance. Something she never thought she'd hear. Hours later, when they finally wheeled Harper to see him, she felt a calm she hadn't felt since the night she fled her old life. Her baby lay in the incubator, wrapped in tiny blankets, wires fewer than before. His chest rose steadily, peacefully. She pressed her fingers gently to his palm. "You came back to me," she whispered. "And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never fight alone again." Nathan stood behind her, quiet, as though absorbing the sacredness of the moment. When she turned to him, gratitude mixed with something deeper, something neither of them had dared name yet. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't have to," Nathan replied. "You and your son, that's all the thanks I'll ever need." Later that morning, officers formally arrested Cole Maddox in the hospital lobby. His charges were read aloud: embezzlement, fraud, coercion, attempted interference with medical care. His protests echoed down the hall, but no one listened. The world had finally caught up to him. Harper didn't watch as he was taken away. She didn't need to. Justice didn't need an audience. Nathan returned to her side, holding a small stuffed bear the NICU provided. "He's going to need this someday," he said with a shy smile. Harper looked at him, really looked at him. This man who had stood beside her in every storm. This man who had chosen her without expecting anything in return. "Stay," she whispered. "Not just for tonight, but for whatever comes next." Nathan's eyes softened. "Nothing would make me happier." Harper leaned her head gently against his chest. Her son lived. Cole fell. And for the first time, the future felt like something she deserved, not something she feared. And that was the ending life finally owed her. So, that's where our story comes to a close. And if you are still here with us in this moment, my friend, then something in Harper's journey must have touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe it reminded you of your own battles. Maybe it whispered a truth you needed to hear. When we look back together, the message becomes clear. Life doesn't always choose the gentle path for us, but we still get to choose how we rise from it. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle is the way." Harper didn't just survive hardship, she transformed it into strength, dignity, and a new beginning. And maybe that's the real lesson for all of us today. We don't control what breaks us, but we do control what we rebuild afterward. Healing is not loud, and courage isn't glamorous. It's choosing to keep going when you have every reason to stop. If this story touched you, even a little, let us keep walking together. Leave a like so we know you're here. Share it with someone who might need this reminder. And subscribe so you never walk these journeys alone again. We're here with you always.